What is up, everybody? Welcome back to another edition of the Sheehan Show here on Sherdog.com. My name is Sean Sheehan, and today I am looking back at 1165, which went down on Sunday morning for me, Saturday night, or maybe Sunday morning for a lot of you, too, over in Japan. And it was a very interesting card on paper. We talked about it last week in the preview. And it turned out to be arguably even more interesting in practice. I suppose the big talking point coming into it was that the Sage Northcutt fight, which I'll tell you the truth, I went to bed last night, I watched a bit of the Royal Rumble, went to bed, said, look, I'll get up early this morning, I'll watch the card before I do this recap. And I went to bed thinking, Sage Northcutt is going to be fighting Shinya Aoki. Woke up today, and I'll tell you the truth, it was starting at 8 a.m. my time, so I was like, do you know what, I'll start at like 10, and then I can watch the fights forward through, which worked out perfectly. I was like on time by the main event game, and I didn't even realise until the fight game. I was like, John Lineker's walking out, John Lineker's not fighting today. What happened there? So Sage Northcutt didn't fight Shinya Aoki, but John Lineker did. We'll talk about that fight in a minute, but the big reason behind that was that Sage put out a statement, said there was visa issues for two of his cornermen, and that One Championship wanted to provide him, or tried to provide him with, not wanted to, probably wanted as well, but attempted to provide him with a world champion jiu-jitsu cornerman. And he said, look, I have done my whole camp with these two people preparing me for this fight. It's against a very good jiu-jitsu guy, which in fact it is, and we'll talk about that later on. So I don't feel comfortable fighting. Look, it's a tough decision. It's one of those decisions, right, where my old school MMA fan head on me is like, come on, Sage, you have to take that fight anyway. The corner's not fighting the fight for you, you're fighting the fight. But then, if you look at it, and I've talked a lot this week about look, MMA is a sport. It's a legitimate sport. And if your coach and your manager, let's say, if you're a soccer team or whatever, are not there, are you going to be taking part in that competition? Probably not. So at least not, without someone from your direct team who can replace them. Maybe if Sage's, I don't know, maybe his father was there, or, one of his training partners was there or something, they could have stepped in, but it didn't seem like they were. So it wasn't possible. Was it the right decision? You know what? It probably was the right decision, but what a tough decision for Sage, considering how tough of a few years he's had in terms of so many injuries and so many fights falling out and everything like that. It's a brave decision, and a lot of people, and including the voice in the back of my head are kind of like, I should have taken it anyway. No, it is the right decision and a wise decision not to take it. So let's get into the card. This was a very interesting card, right? Because look, we've talked about it now, I think, on 3 different shows already this year, so I won't harping on it too much. That a lot of people have complained last year there wasn't enough mixed martial arts on these One Championship cards, and as we've seen, especially in this one, but in the last card as well this year, there has been more. And Chatri promised that, and so far he's living up to that promise by putting on more MMA fights. I think the problem with this card is that of the top 4, 3 warrant MMA fights, and the other one was the short notice fight between Lineker and Aoki, obviously, that we weren't expecting. I think that is an issue, because this is it's a martial arts organization, but I think it should be a mixed martial arts organization above that as well. I think if you have an amazing, outstanding kickboxing fight, which I'm sure maybe this was, I'm not the biggest kickboxing expert in the world, fine, no problem. I've actually no problem with this main event, but putting a grappling match in the co-main event, when it's going to deaden the crowd, when it's more than likely going to be a 10-minute sort of, stalemate, which is interesting. I actually don't mind that. I actually liked him on the card, but maybe put that opening the card, or, second from opening the main card or something like that, and have at least 2 of the top 3 be MMA fights. I think that's the way forward for One Championship. I really do think that's the way forward for One Championship. And I know there's a belt on the line and everything like that, but I think it'll help your cards in future. I think it'll help the cadence of the cards as well. And I think that's one of those things. Like I appreciate what One Championship are trying to do. You know, I interviewed Chatchery and I asked him kind of straight out about that. It's like they want to be more of a martial arts organization than a promotion, and I appreciate that. I 100% appreciate that. But you also have to, like, you know, you have to cater for your fans. You have to cater for the people, you know, buying the pay-per-views at home or tuning in on Sky Sports or tuning in on Amazon, wherever it might be. And, you know, the vast majority of people tuning into are either martial artists or, like myself, a martial arts fan or someone covering the sport. And we just want to see it be at its best. And I think a slight adjustment to the card would be better than the way it is now, I think. So I wouldn't ask to change any of the fights. I think it was a good card up and down on paper. Didn't turn out to be the best card in the world. Not a bad card, but I think if you just make a few slight adjustments, like what should have been done maybe was put Martin Wynn and Gary Tonin as the co-main event. After the kickboxing, and then have Lineker versus Aoki after it, and then after that have the Caterers Hall Langacker fight. I think that'd make sense. Or have it the main event of the prelims or something like that. So it's like its own main event type of thing. So yeah, that's the only advice I would give, or only point I would make on how to make things slightly better. With that said, let's get into the card and let's talk about it. I was blown away by a few of these fights, and a few of these fights, you know, I suppose flattered to deceive in a lot of ways. So there was like two or three fights on this card. It was like they reached a point where, okay, this is going to take off now, and they just kind of didn't. The one that did, I think, is the main event, which is the most important thing. So that was absolutely brilliant. Let's talk about that. Takeru versus Superlek. Obviously, Superlek, the reigning champion, coming in. Takeru, this card was on in Japan, the hometown Japanese favorite here, and you know, it was one of those fights where I think Superlek brought Takeru into it a little bit. I think he maybe thought it was going a little bit too easy. Maybe he thought he was dominant a little bit too much, let the guard down a little bit, and ended up making the fight maybe a lot closer than it actually was. So just to run through what happened, round one was a slow start, I think, from both men. But then midway through the round, or not even midway through the round, like in the mid part of the round, Superlek started landing those kicks. And those kicks to the leg really turned the fight. Like every time he landed one, it looked like it didn't so much look like it hurted Takeru, but it just looked like it took 1% off him, 2% off him, 3% off him. And, you know, by the time 50 of them were landed, it's very hard to be the same fighter that you were when the fight started. So that was the mid part of round one. There was some good straight right hands from Superlek. After that, then Takeru, he was off the mark with his counters, I thought, fighting off the back foot, and it just didn't work out for him in that first round. The second round, Takeru started coming forward, but in my opinion, he'd very little success apart from one very nice kind of mid-round combo. Superlek again just destroying that leg. By this time, say at the 5-minute mark of the fight, he was reddened and he was limping. So that is worst case scenario when you're fighting a guy like Superlek. He's going to kick your leg, but now he has that big red mark to kick, and he knows exactly, he knows exactly what to do, but he knows exactly that that's working as well. And that must be such a tough position for someone like Takeru. Superlek was even landing hands from the back foot, I think, as Takeru was coming forward, and it just did not work for him. He had very, very little success. The third was the same until halfway through it, and Takeru, he just started letting his hands go. And I went back and, like, or actually they showed the replay, I didn't need to go back. And I just thought he'd landed something, like maybe he'd landed a shot in the middle I didn't see, like something to maybe a body shot or, you know, a little uppercut or something like that I didn't see. But no, in the replay, he didn't, right? He didn't land anything at the start of the combination anyway that we're just about to speak about. But he just landed shot after shot after shot after shot. And I think the word I use here is overwhelmed. I think he just overwhelmed Superlek a bit, and he didn't know how to respond, didn't know what to do. And I think it won Takeru that round, honestly. I just think if he had this fight again, or if he had maybe the last two rounds after this again, he might do a bit more of that, because it was a great method to success for him. He wasn't putting himself under too much pressure. He wasn't really putting himself in any great danger of getting countered, because Superlek wasn't landing counters when he was putting on that much pressure, and he was winning the fight that way. So it was very good. But in the fourth, Takeru again was having success. But this time, Superlek just didn't allow it to initiate. A lot of the time, he was on his bike. That was probably the closest round of the fight. I think I've no idea who won that round. As I said, because Superlek was on his bike, he wasn't landing as many leg kicks, although he was landing leg kicks from range. Not as many as the in previous parts of the fight. In round 5, then Takeru was going for it, but he just wasn't landing anything clean. And this is probably the reason why he didn't, why what he did in the third round isn't possible to do in every round, because you're going to be off the mark. Your opponent's going to be able to read you. You're going to become predictable. And I think the leg kicks at work again were just enough to see Superlek through. And in fact, they were. He ended up winning the unanimous decision and retaining his title after that. Overall, I think it was a good fight. It was a very much an ebb and flow sort of fight. It's a sort of ebb and flow we kind of don't really see in MMA that much. MMA kind of, it's an ebb and flow like between, I suppose, dominations of single rounds. Although the Strickland DDP fight last week was a little bit like that, but I thought this ebb and flow of tactics, one reacting to the other was, a rare thing in mixed martial arts, but in kickboxing, as we've seen reviewing these cards, it's not as rare there. The next bout then was the submission grappling between Cade Ricciolo and Tommy Langacker, and this one wasn't one to show your friends, I don't think, to get him into grappling. Cade jumped guard after about 2 minutes. The first 2 minutes, they were literally kind of pawing at each other, pulling on necks. Cade trying to kind of bait him into something, but nothing really worked. And as I said, then he pulled guard. He went for the leg. Tommy got on top, nearly got the back, but Cade did a great job of, he really hustled to get out. And he trapped the arm himself from the back. Got into, this crucifix position where he went for the Kimura. Then he got on top when that didn't work, went for a dart. And I was thinking, this dart looks very, very good here. But Tommy managed to get out of it. Cade got on top again went for the darts. Again, it looked very, very good. He got the catch this time from, I believe it was Herb Dean. So that put him in the lead in this bout. Langacker again going for the leg. Cade kind of turned into it and got away. They're in 50-50 for a second, and then Cade got to his back, went for a triangle or one of those Cathal Pendred style James Bond chokes from his back, which went to a triangle again, didn't end up getting it, and that was the end. And Rotolo ended up retaining his title, and that was that. I'm not exactly the biggest jiu-jitsu expert in the world, so if I got anything wrong there, I think my apology. I'm sure I missed some rubber guard, X guards, some shite. I definitely missed something. Anyway, Rotolo won. Then we had Shinya Aoki against John Lineker. The weird thing about this, right, is you go into most Shinya Aoki fights, whether it's the Sage fight, whether it's the Sexy Yama fight, and I'm actually not sure if I mentioned it too much in the preview. I'd hearken to guess I probably did at some stage, but size is always a big issue for Shinya Aoki. He's usually the kind of the smaller, weaker man in a lot of these bouts, especially against the guys I just mentioned, and last time out again against Ibrahimov, or what's his name? I can't remember, the champ. And I saw him coming into this, and he's lining up against John Lineker, and thinking, okay, wait, he's actually the bigger guy here. He can be the bully. Aoki doesn't Aoki loves being the bully, and he hates being bullied, right? Which I suppose would be the same for anyone, but an MMA fighter, maybe not. But the second he realized he could be the bully in this fight, I think he was almost bound to win. Lineker coming in, I think he weighed in at 155 pounds or something yesterday, which is big even for John Lineker. But the fight started off, Lineker landed one leg kick, and Aoki immediately closed the distance, got on top. And from that point, you're thinking, oh, hold on here. I was thinking coming into this fight, it was supposed to be Sage Norcott. Aoki had no chance. He's going to lose here. But now we're against John Lineker. We're on top. Got into half guard. thinking, oh, well, this fight has changed very, very quickly here. And it's in the first round as well. If it was in the second or third, I think, okay, maybe he'd be tired, or maybe Lineker could, he survived before, he could continue to survive, but that wasn't the case. Aoki got into the darts, which got him the mount. Let go of the darts pretty quickly, started landing elbows, then got the back, then flattened him out. Some massive ground and pound in. I thought it could have been finished for a ground and pound for a second, or was going towards that. He got on the back, as I said again, then put in the neck crank / face crank. This was not a choke. This was not a rear naked choke at all. He did not choke him. It was a face crank, neck crank, and John Lineker tapped in, I think, exactly 3 minutes into the first round. So a pretty easy night of work for Shinya Aoki. He didn't have to fight the bigger, Sage Northcutt. He got the short notice, John Lineker, and he ended up winning the bout. It was an interesting choice to make, like, considering. So John Lineker, he lost to Fabricio Andrade. After that no contest in 2022, no contest 2023, he won the fight to start of that. He lost the fight to start of that. And then he'd come back and he was in against Jaewon Kim, losing that fight arguably, gets the third round finish, unbelievable. Goes in there against Steve LeMan last time out, puts on a great performance. And you're thinking, okay, he's back into, he's back into it again. And he's back into title contention and he could fight for the title next coming up. And then he's in there against Shinya Aoki and he loses. It's like, was it worth it? Was it really worth it here? I'm not too sure about this, but look, he did it on short notice. I appreciate him doing it on short notice, but I don't know, for the sake of that division, for the sake, if you're John Lineker yourself as well, I'm not 100% sure that was the right decision. But anyway, we will go on. The next fight was also a very, very quick fight. I usually write down in my notes, when the fight's starting, I write down the name of the two people, and I write down R1, R2, R3, and for this one I had R1 boxing, R2 MT, Muay Thai, and R3 MMA, and unfortunately we only got round one. Unfortunately for me and for everyone watching and for the fight itself, but not unfortunately for the two people in it, I think. So it was Sexyama versus Nikki Holtzkin. Yoshihiro Akiyama looked very, very old, and he is old now, so there's no problem with that. But it was the first round was boxing. They were wearing boxing shoes, which they were going to take off after the first round, which was just, to me, so odd. But very quickly into the fight, you could see that Holtzkin was going to be a massive problem for Sexyama. He landed a big left hook, knocked him down, and I think the fight probably could have, if not should have, been stopped at that stage. I think he was in a bad way. He was in such a bad way, he went for a takedown when he got back up. But then he landed the right hand after that, did Holtzkin, put him down again, and they stopped it, thankfully. I think it was Olivia Costa. I'm not 100% sure who the ref was. Maybe I'll be able to see it here. Yeah, I'm not sure. But the fight was stopped anyway, and Nikki Holtzkin got the win in that one. Not much to write home about in that one. It only lasted 100 seconds, and Holtzkin dominated the older Akiyama. Then we had a kickboxing matchup between Marat Grigorian and Sichitang, which was a very interesting one, I suppose. Grigorian started on the front foot, got some nice jabs and a body kick from Sichitai. He just looked better to me in the first round. His straights, the body were big. Grigorian was forward pressure. He putting on forward pressure from the very start, right? Getting on the front foot, as I said. And it looked really scary. Like, it looked really, really scary. But for about a minute only. And after that, I thought Sichitai was just much better than him in that first round and landed those big shots. And what a change of tact for Grigorian to start the second. Like, it's very easy to go, like, I'm going forward, I'm losing this fight. So, do you know what will I do now? Like, what's the answer? Okay, will I go backwards? Will I kind of jab out? Will I try to play a slower game and try to entice him out, maybe? But what he did was went more forward. He got closer into range. Rather than just attacking from range and being aggressive, he started to walk him down and land inside, and it really, really worked for him. Body and head. Sitchesai was started to keep the range, was throwing closer in combinations. He was fighting in that range as well, but Murat was just winning. He knocked him down. It wasn't given. The ref didn't allow it. He said it was in a clinch, which was fair enough. But what I loved inside was like this close in leg kicks. Very rare we see them, especially in MMA, but obviously this was kickboxing. But I think those close in leg kicks or something in MMA, maybe we could see more often, especially for fighting like a striker. They were so effective in this fight, I thought, for Grigorian, actually for both of them, but a great weapon. Third round in, the close hook combos from Grigorian were so good. Again, those close-in leg kicks. To me, Sitchesai looked a little bit off balance, looked a little bit tired, and as I wrote that down on my notes, the big left hook to the body came after the knee to the body, and he knocked him out. I didn't know what it was when I saw it first. I saw the knee to the body, and I'm thinking, okay, maybe the knee dropped him, or kind of, not dropped him, but like dropped his posture down a bit, and then the left hook came into the chin or whatever. But it was actually, I'm pretty sure it was the left hook to the body. Very hard to see it. I saw one replay, and it was, maybe the referee was in the way of the other camera or something, but yeah, it was very tough to see. But I'm pretty sure it was a body shot that knocked him out in the third round. But a very, very good fight, very, very good boxing match, kickboxing match, and a good win for Grigorian there. Then we had, I suppose, the most high-level MMA fight of the night between Gary Tonin and Martin Nguyen. Very good performance from Gary Tonin. Started off with some lovely jabs, got into a quick body lock takedown and into mount. And that probably all happened inside, 20 seconds, 25 seconds. If you're Gary Tonin, that's exactly what you want. That is A+ stuff for you. He isolated the neck really, really quickly. He isolated in kind of like, if let's say, so he was in mount, and let's say you'd isolated it in a way that you're going for a head and arm choke, but like without the arm. And I've done, this is probably a common thing in jiu-jitsu, but I haven't seen it that much in MMA. He isolated that neck, right? So let's say the head and arm, if you haven't seen it, the head and arm choke position without the arm, so just like head in there, and then he turned around and he took the back while still holding the neck, and was basically in on the rear naked choke while he got the back, got the body triangle in, and secured that position. It was exceptional stuff against a high-level guy like Martin Nguyen. And people are probably saying, oh, high-level guy, is he really? Well, he is, because of the way he defended after that. He defended it so well for a guy who had him basically all ends up caught. Defended it well, was controlling the wrists, got free at one stage even. Of the choke and of the back mount, ended up not necessarily of the back mount, but of the choke and of danger maybe. But there was some good ground and pound in from Tonin. But you could see, so that was at the start of the round all the way through the round, and there was like 45 seconds left, and you could see Tonin knew it, and he just upped the pace with the clock going. Eventually got the two arms free, or the two wrists free, let's say. Got the left arm under the neck, attacked with the other side, so it was the right arm that he initially had under the neck, moved to the left arm under the neck, and got the tap at the end of round one. A brilliant performance from Gary Tonin. Exception here, I couldn't say enough about it, and he'd go forward, I'm sure, in that division. Dinrit Hirata versus Miura. And look, Miura did what Miura does, I suppose, but this was a higher quality performance out of her over 15 minutes than we're used to. And what I mean by that is, usually when she gets her most high-level performances, she goes in, she chokes someone out very quickly. We very rarely see her be able to do this. We saw her against Xingdeng Zhang, the champion, and she went in there for 25 minutes, and she wasn't able to do it for 5 minutes. I think that has been her biggest struggle as Miura, but she was able to do it here for a long period. So to recap the fight, she immediately went across the cage and clinched up. She was looking for that kind of front headlock that she looked for against Mangbo and got against Mangbo, but she was a little bit lower. I think Hirata defended well in terms of that. She stayed high. She got out then, but she got back in very, very quickly. 3 minutes of kind of bad shots against the ring, I would say. Hirata broke up, but Miura got her right back into the clinch and then landed some good shots towards the end of round 1. Quick clinch again to start round 2. And I think at the second point in round 1 where Miura got the clinch, Hirata's head kind of dipped down a bit, right? It was like, oh God, this is me for the night. And in the second round, there was a period, I'd say over 2 minutes, where Miura was holding the position against the ring in the clinch without actually clinching her. Like, she'd no underhook, no overhook, no wrist control or anything like that. She was literally just standing in front of her, and Hirata was was cowering there, was like not, and cowering's a bad word, but you know what I mean? She wasn't moving. She was afraid of the position. She's afraid of moving anywhere in case she get caught. She was mentally broken. I think she broke her mentally in that first round, and by the time the second round came out, she was just there to, to defend. She put her on her butt in the corner, and Miura started landing some good shots. Hirata got up, she had even more shots. A few back elbows from Hirata to show a bit of life, but Miura swept her leg out from under her to get a takedown. Right back up again, but still in the clinch. Nice knees, and stayed in the clinch for the whole round. The clinch was accepted again immediately in the third round. And basically that was that 3 minutes of minimal body control from Miura, and Hirata just stayed there. As I said again, absolutely broken takedown from Miura late. Hirata got up, but still clinched towards the end of the round. And it was the easiest decision the judges will ever have to make in picking a winner in that one. Almost no output at all from Hirata, and Miura wins there. I think if that was in the 10-by-month system, there might have been a couple of 10-8s in there. She didn't land a load, let's say, but she did land enough. The best fight of the night then was the next one out between Yuya Wakamatsu and Danny Kinyad. Such a good fight. Round 1, immediate takedown for Yuya. Reversed. Then reversed again. Big knee by Danny. Mad scrambles after that. But the last 2 minutes were the big difference in that round. Yuya got on top, landed some very nasty ground and pound. But those scrambles in the middle of that round, and the scrambles we'll see in the second and third as well, were just fantastic. This is high level stuff. And I'm a big fan of both of these guys. Everyone knows in these previews I have a soft spot for Yuya Wakamatsu. I just think at his best he can be very, very, very good, and he was at his best this morning. Kenya got the clinch early in round 2, but Wakamatsu lands on top. Herb stands him up for a fence grab then. It was all a bit odd. That was. I didn't think there was much in it, but maybe there was. He was around the other angle, and we couldn't see the angle, so maybe it was. Danny landed on top then, but Yuya sprawled out, so didn't make much of a difference. Loads of brilliant scrambles then again. Looked like Danny was going to have top control, but no. Didn't look like Yuya was going to have it. No. I would say Yuya slightly got the better of that round. Obviously, it's not scored in the 10-point system, so it doesn't matter, but very, very close one. In the third, then, takedown for Yuya, some ground and pound, but they got up. Danny spent 2 minutes failing to take Yuya down, which was a real knock for him. Yuya got a takedown, landed some very nice ground and pound, and that was really the story of the fight. It was when Danny tried to get a position to dominate. He just didn't, and Yuya did, and then he did dominate from it, but not for large periods of the fight, but for a fight that scored as a whole, that's absolutely perfect. He had all the clear offensive dominating moments throughout the fight, and he won it. And it was, that was the only difference really. Like those 45 seconds, maybe a minute long intervals where he is on top landing shots. Other than that, it was mad scrambles, even and brilliant fight, and I really, really enjoyed it. 3 fights left in, the first of which was a kickboxing matchup between Red Opecic and Iraz Azizpour. It was your typical kind of small man versus tall man here. Opecic being the tall man. He was landing some nice kicks, both high and low, lovely teeps. Azizpour was breaking in with kind of risky shots, trying to spin and back fist, but the tall man was definitely winning there. Round 2, the leg kicks and teeps were an even bigger factor. Izizpur was struggling to find his range, but around 2 minutes into the second round, he did. He landed a nicely timed right hand after missing one just before it. Got a low blow, but was more aggressive after that. And I thought at the end of round 2, like the round 3 is going to be real interesting. That round 2 was pretty close. I think it probably was 2-0 to OPH. I've said his name like 3 different ways, 3 different times now. But anyway, but it just, the exciting round 3 didn't happen. It was just 2 stop-start. There was loads of clinches, obviously, which you can't do in a kickboxing. Just loads of breaks. There was a wheel kick at one stage from Izizpur, and he got caught up in the ropes. Again, another stop. There was 2 low blows. Again, 2 more stops. Stop, start, stop, start, stop, start. Someone saw, I'm not even sure who won that round, but it didn't matter because OPH was ahead and he won the fight. He won the unanimous decision there. So a fight, that was one of the fights I was mentioning. There's a couple like that. It threatened to become really good, but it just didn't happen. And that was definitely that. And then we did 2 strawweight fights. Masuanya versus Yamakita. Lots of outside knottingness in this fight, I would say. Masuanya fighting the southpaw, but switching. He eventually got a lovely takedown on top for ages, but Yamakita was landing more shots. He picked him up, and it looked like he was going to slam him late, did Masuanya, but he just didn't slam him. Got a few nice grounded knees though, and that was very, very good. The second round, again, all this outside guff with nothing happening. Yamakita landed a right hand, both traded leg kicks. Yamakita then oddly went for a takedown, and Masuanya landed on top. Yamakita was scoring from the bottom, but knees and elbows from the top really turned this fight for Masuanya. There was one stage where he landed an elbow and a knee, I think. And when Yamakita turned around, you could see the bloody mouth. And I'm thinking, that's the sort of thing, not to go full Dominic Cruz here or anything, but when you see that, you're thinking, okay, who's damaging who's landed the most here? And it was without a shadow of doubt Masuanya. Again, very slow start to the third round. Takedown from Masuanya. The kind of the triangle, wasn't there. Some lovely knees and elbows, again, very similar to what we had in round 2. Went for half an armbar late, ended with some good ground and pound, and that was that. Again, similar enough to the Wakamatsu fight in terms of he won all the big moments at Masuanya. Wasn't as good, wasn't as fun, I suppose, as the Wakamatsu fight, but similar in terms of the big moments. The opening bout then was probably the closest with the split decision between Bellator and Minowa. Loads of outside work and very little strikes to start this one off again, similar to the last fight. Bellator was able to break the distance multiple times and kind of half landed in the weigh-in, and I think that was the winning of this fight, in fact, but definitely the first round, although obviously his rounds aren't scored by round, they're scored, the fight scored as a whole. The ring, do you know what? One thing, I'm not the biggest fan of the ring, right? But the ring is actually grand for the smaller guys because they can clinch better against it. So the biggest issue with the ring, I think, is when it gets into a clinch and it's bigger guys, they kind of fall through the ropes and there's arms in the ropes and all. But when it's the smaller guys, they can lean through it. There isn't too much weight being put on it, and it doesn't affect the fight as much. But I think it was that was definitely an advantage for Bellator, the Greco-Roman Olympian, and he was able to clinch a lot there. Bellator hit him with a low blow, KO'd him with a low blow at the start. I thought the fight wasn't going to continue. He was down for an awful long time, was Minowa, but he did get up and it was a better round for him. Landed 2 nice right hands, did better in the clinch. Bellator got a takedown, but he bounced right back up. Nice left kick by Bellator late. Might have been the best shot of the round, maybe even the best shot of the fight. So a good round from Minowa turned into, I think, late. It wasn't a massive shot or anything, but it was a nice one. Round 3, both were more aggressive. I thought that would suit Minowa, but it didn't. Bellator's fast hands favoured him. He clinched again, even got a takedown. Nice shots in the clinch late from Minowa, but, what was it enough? Was it not enough? An extremely close fight, I would have said. I would have scored it for Bellator, and that's how the judges scored as well. And he ended up winning the split decision there. So, those are all the fights from night. I'll just quickly recap them. In the main event, Superlag beat Takeru for unanimous decision. It was a unanimous decision as well. In the submission grappling for Kedra Tolo against Tommy Langlacker. There was a face crank win for Shinya Aoki against John Lineker in the first round. of their short notice fight. Nikki Holskin in the mixed rules bout beat Sexyama Yashihiro Akiyama. Marek Grigorian won his kickboxing match against Sichitaev with a third round knockout. Gary Tonin got a genuine rear naked choke against Martin Wynn in the first round of their bout. Ayam Miura dominated Itsuki Hirata to a unanimous decision. There was also a unanimous decision for Yuya Wakamatsu and Ryo Opic against Danny Kenyad and Iraz Azizpur respectively. And then in the two strawweight fights, there was wins for Bokeng Masayanya over Keito Yamakita and for Gustavo Ballart against Hiroba Minowa. All right, everyone, that is the recap for your 1165 card. My name is Sean Sheehan for Sherdog.com, and I'll see you all next time.